Hey there, this is Robert Kornacki, co-founder at Paima Studios. In this video, we're going to be talking about why Trustless Web3 gaming is the future of blockchain gaming. So, before we dive directly into the topic, I want to step back and give a similar point of view that happened already in the world of blockchain. So, initially with Bitcoin, blockchains were first perceived purely as ledgers, right? Where they're ledgers of account. I hold assets, you hold assets, we can transact and send those assets to one another, and that was at the base level. After we got smart contracts, programmatic ability on top of the ledger, and suddenly not only could we just simply send and receive, but now we add logic and a lot of depth to what is possible based off of the decentralized validation of the network itself. This opened up a lot of potential. And so not only did blockchain have the perspective of being, a ledger of account of store of value, but now it opened up a door for so much more. And so with DeFi, what DeFi did was it looked at the underlying blockchain ledger technology plus programmatic ability. It looked at centralized finance, and then it said, hey, what if we dig down, really reconsider what are the core capabilities of these new programmatic smart contracts? And with them, what happens if we really try and re-envision the financial world, but now through a trustless lens? And with a lot of work and effort, and admittedly, a lot of scams and BS that were completely terrible and lost a lot of people money, which unfortunately is just the state of affairs in the ecosystem and to some degree the world in many cases. But nonetheless, what we had is, a really dedicated, really core set of hardworking developers, projects, and companies that really dug down, and what they did is create a whole new world of DeFi through discovering, implementing, and building new trustless financial primitives. And so DeFi came out of that, and it came out of the realization that we have a centralized world which is working today, but it has many faults, and with our new model of trustless on-chain computing, we can do a lot of new things that were never possible in the centralized world before. And so DeFi came out of the fact that people said, no, we don't want your bare bones centralized financial primitives. We think we can do better with our decentralized primitives. And then we had even new primitives on top, right? So some, you could say like copy primitives from the centralized financial world would be like stable coins, right? Or specifically you just have the equivalent of a digital dollar that everyone can use on chain. And then some cases of things like lending and so forth, which are inspired from the centralized world. However, brand new financial primitives also came about. So not only do we have the bare bones basics from the centralized financial world, but we had this iterative ability for people to really stack new capabilities on top of what the centralized world had. And then we get, quote unquote interest bearing staking, for example, is a very base core financial primitive that all proof of stake blockchains have. That interest from the proof of stake, right, then often can get used into some protocols as a base rewards. And then you have kind of this programmatic ability, stack and stack and stack the levels of, lower level primitives, mid level primitives, high level primitives to then create new dApps, new experiences, and new products effectively that people never could have had in the centralized financial world. And so DeFi at its very core was built by people who were focused on discovering and implementing novel financial primitives that were trustless. So now, with that kind of framing, let's jump back to gaming. So, in the world of blockchain gaming today, we're effectively back in the year 2016, maybe 2017-ish, for blockchains from a financial point of view. And the reason why is that pretty much in the world of blockchain gaming, all you have is Web 2.5 gaming. And what I mean by that is projects simply take the Web 2 stack that's fully centralized and it has some decent trade-offs of performance and so forth, but there's inherently nothing novel about them. And then all they do is take tokens and NFTs and simply duct tape them together. And so from a pure innovation standpoint, and from a trustlessness standpoint, and centralization standpoint, the current era of blockchain games offer nothing new. They effectively provide NFTs and tokens, but those NFTs and tokens are directly tied to the centralized private servers of the company. And so if the company goes out of business, bye-bye value for the tokens and NFTs, and the game can never be played again. It's fully devoted to the company itself, and there's no way to get around that. And this model inherently locks us in because there's no technological innovations. As I mentioned also the previous video I recorded about Stateful NFTs. Not only is it just Web 2.5 gaming, but the fact that the NFTs they're using are not stateful and they're so brittle and cumbersome, really the UX of Web 2.5 games is tangibly worse with transaction fees, higher costs of entry, constantly having speculators destroy the entire gameplay experience for the vast majority of actual real players. And the current era of Web 2.5 gaming just isn't sustainable, and it's not exciting because there's no technological innovations. It's almost the equivalent of, in the financial world, if we put NFTs and tokens, fungible tokens, on centralized exchanges, and we would sell that to people as a new decentralized financial revolution, no one would really care because, yeah, cool, you have NFTs and tokens, but it's all centralized on one exchange. And as we've seen in recent years, recent months, weeks even, just trusting centralized exchanges and expecting them to be perfect, amazing, and also expecting them to just have new tech that other people in the open source world can develop and grow and add on to or build entire ecosystems around. That's A, not possible, and B, not something you want because you're just giving more power to these centralized exchanges while they hold all the keys and everything that matter. Web 2.5 gaming, though it's not exaggerated to that same degree because the value per person may not be like as high because in a centralized exchange, people are really trading their money and these are much higher value numbers. And so the risk there is much greater. However, in Web 2.5 gaming, you have pretty much all the exact same trade-offs in different scales. And so you end up with the current state of the ecosystem we have today in blockchain gaming, where you have a bunch of games and they have slightly different, maybe play to earn, maybe a slightly different type of play to earn, maybe some different ways to kind of accentuate small things. But really all these games focus maybe 40-50% on gameplay and creating a cohesive world that makes sense. And specifically that is emboldened and strengthened by new technological primitives for blockchain gaming. None of these projects do that, and they just focus 40-50% on the actual gameplay, just using Web 2 stack. And then they spend 50-60% just building out tokenomic schemes to accentuate the benefits for speculators. And the core reason of this, of course, the same thing happened in the world of DeFi. But the problem is with blockchain gaming is that unlike DeFi up to this point, in DeFi, there were technological innovations, new primitives, new things that were palpably possible that everyone felt. And so you had a lot of BS projects that were probably 95, 98, 99%, but you had a core of real projects that used and discovered the existing innovations and came up with new innovations. And so then we have, the cream of the crop rise above and actually tangibly change the world of decentralized finance, DeFi, and build it from scratch. In blockchain gaming, because we just have this Web 2.5 and we're stuck in just centralized world, nothing is trustless, no new primitives, absolutely nothing is novel. It's just Web 2, tokens and NFTs, slapped on top, focused on speculators. Because that is the case, blockchain gaming is probably one of the most maligned, really, sectors of blockchain for people outside of the ecosystem. Because in the world of finance, a lot of people may say many things about blockchain, may scoff, but DeFi exists and it tangibly, in parallel, exists from the world of centralized finance. And many people have many opinions, but it exists and it provides value that is tangibly different, and that is something that is not arguable compared to centralized finance. There may be different degrees, and certain projects are more centralized, less centralized, but there are core primitives in DeFi that the world of centralized finance, centralized exchanges, even in blockchain, cannot replicate. And that's simply the case. In blockchain gaming, we, up to this point, don't have that. And so everyone just sees Web 2.5 games, primarily from the perspective of the vast swath of gamers. And really, from their perspective, it's just BS. Because all they see is speculation, speculation, speculation. And when they ask honestly, okay, what's the actual benefit? What's the point of putting gaming on blockchain? The answers are something. There's ways to pretty it up and say, oh, it'll be decentralized, oh, people can vote. But all these things that most of these projects sell, they're possible in the Web 2 model without the tokens, without the NFTs. Like, many MMORPGs have the ability for players to vote on certain things in the game that will take place in future updates. There might be some small benefits in putting that in a smart contract on chain and so forth, but for the vast majority of gamers, and we can see this through current adoption numbers of blockchain gaming, they don't really care, because all they see is you just want to speculate. All the existing games that have had any success in the blockchain world, they've only really benefited speculators, and the actual gameplay isn't that exciting and usually gets worse based off of the speculators pushing the prices super high, making it impossible to invite your friends because you're telling them, hey, just pay $800 to just get into the game and play with me. Or they dive down low because the speculators dump at a certain point, or the tokenomics make it so that it's unsustainable. And so someone got in for $200 and they were told, oh no, you won't lose those $200. It'll maintain price. And suddenly now it's worth $10. And so they just lost $190 for a game they only had fun with for 2 days before the speculators destroyed the entire economy there. These things are all that gamers see, right? It's just speculative BS that doesn't provide anything novel. And I don't really blame them. And so, with Paima Studios and what we're building, we really sat down back half a year ago when we started all of this and just really began to think, what are the palpable benefits that would actually be possible? And looking at the world of DeFi and what was possible, what came about from there, we had specifically this insight where I sat down and really thought this through, that DeFi was only possible because we had novel, trustless financial primitives that tangibly were not replicatable in the world of centralized exchanges or, trad centralized finance. And so with Paima Studios and the engine we're building, Paima Engine, we really scoped out that if we want to be successful, if we want to actually do something that matters, and not just do crappy pump and dumps, focus on speculators, but actually move the space forward, we realize that we have to really start from square one for blockchain gaming. Take all of the lessons over the past decade or so from the world of blockchain as a whole, from smart contracts, from DeFi, from rollups, from everything that has existed, and all the latest innovations for both scaling and otherwise. And then sit down and really think, what are the trustless Web3 gaming primitives that can be discovered and implemented that tangibly provide a different experience that is not replicable by Web 2.5 centralized gaming or traditional Web 2 gaming. And that's really what drives us at Paima Studios. It's not just, slap tokens on top and great, Web 2.5 is amazing, beautiful. We think this is a dead end. Web 2.5 gaming is a dead end from our perspective. And so what we've devoted a lot of time and research into, and something that I personally believe is what will define blockchain gaming, is the concept of trustless Web3 gaming. And so what I mean by that is that what we want to do is take the lessons, as I mentioned, from the blockchain sphere as a whole, and take not just one small miniature step of integration of the game into blockchain, like Web 2.5. That tiny incremental step is just duct taping tokens and NFTs onto Web 2 gaming. We don't think that's innovative, interesting, it doesn't provide anything, it's just for speculation. We sat down and we really thought, what is possible? And all of the discoveries, ideas, and potential next steps that really generate new Web3 trustless primitives for gaming were slowly added onto Paima Engine step by step. And so as I shared with you guys, I believe in our previous video, about Stateful NFTs, this was a brand new discovery that wasn't possible in the world of Web 2.5 centralized gaming. And the reason why is the only way you can have value on your stateful NFTs is not if all of the entire game is centralized on a company's private servers and suddenly you have your stateful NFTs just useless and valueless because the company went bankrupt, they closed their servers, or 20 other things that's stuck in this fully centralized model. But based off of creating a trustless Web3 gaming engine like Paima Engine and building games using it, we actually can build stateful NFTs such that in 20, 30, 40 years, the game, whether Paima Studios succeeds and lives on for 40 years, or at some point we go bankrupt or whatever happens and the business closes, the games we build will still exist, the stateful NFTs themselves will exist, and the state attached to the stateful NFTs are trustlessly attached and always available for players to still have and own. And so, unlike in Web 2.5 world, Web 2.5 gaming world, where it's centralized and the dev studio is required for anything to functionally work at all, what we're doing with Paima Engine and with building this future of trustless Web3 gaming is saying that's not sustainable. We want to take the lessons of trustlessness, decentralization, and focusing on building new genuine primitives and put that into Paima Engine and both build our own games to highlight and really bring to light all these new primitives and benefits of trustless Web3 gaming. And eventually, in the long term, our goal is to have Paima Engine be at the core of moving the industry forward and allowing other companies and projects and studios to then use Paima Engine to build trustless Web3 games themselves. This is a vision, obviously, that's quite large in scope. And we personally do believe that it's fully possible because we already are, as I mentioned in previous videos, I believe, that we have Jungle Wars, NFT Rumble, a second game in the works that's already 50% done. We also have a third game that's currently purely in the design phase, and each one is taking large steps forward at key junctures of the primitives required for Paima Engine to deliver on this Web3 gaming vision, trustless Web3 gaming vision. And so what we're doing here at Paima Studios is not just being, slightly novel. I will fully admit we're being potentially overly ambitious, but we're overly ambitious because we have a vision that we believe is the only real vision that will succeed for blockchain gaming. And so what we want to do is put our full effort into making that vision possible and actually discovering the new primitives. One of the things that I was so excited about blockchain back when I got into it late 2013, early 2014, around there, was that wow, this decentralized ledger brings really cool new primitives to us in the sense of moving us past just typical centralized dollar-based models. DeFi really opened up new capabilities as well, and was really exciting. Besides all the scams and everything, which pervade all of this, as mentioned. But still, the tech was truly exciting because there really was something that was never possible before. And so just to reiterate that point, for blockchain gaming, we really do believe that trustless Web3 gaming, where we focus on building primitives that allow us to create new games that were never possible before in the same way, to create games that can live on forever past the companies that created them, to create games that have assets that actually maintain coherence. So not specifically targeting value, which is a speculation and speculator-based mindset, which is what play to earn and this entire Web 2.5 model is focused on. Money, 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 speculation, 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 but they don't care about innovation. And what we're focused on is skimming down the things that simply don't push the state of blockchain gaming forward. Obviously, there will always be speculators to some degree, but we need to design systems and the tech underneath them to make it so that you don't destroy absolutely everything, the entire game economy, if speculators play around a bit and make it go up or down depending on whatever their whim is. We need to make sure new players can get in, enjoy the game, and then still, as I mentioned earlier, be able to play the game in 5, 10, 15, potentially 20 years and have that game still work, still exist, and its exact same assets. If someone holds a Stateful NFT 2023 in their wallet and they come back in 2043 and all the front-end code and everything to run the game will be publicly accessible and still available for them to use, then they'll be able to just play the exact same game and take off from where they were 20 years back, because everything is trustless Web3 gaming. It's trustless and focused on having transparency and determinism of the actual game state, and that's truly what has value, is the ability for people to play the game without trustless intermediaries, which at a very surface level isn't in itself that big of a trade-off for most gamers, because most gamers don't really care, they just want gameplay. But removing the trustlessness, just like in the world of finance, removing trust brought DeFi into the forefront with new primitives, and removing trust in the world of gaming will likewise, and is already, with Stateful NFTs and also a few other primitives, which we'll talk about potentially in upcoming future videos. We have novel trustless Web3 primitives for gaming that weren't possible before. And so that's why, from our perspective as Paima Studios, Web 2.5 gaming does not have a future besides being a small blip in the history of Web3 gaming. Trustless Web3 gaming, however, we do think is the future, and from our perspective, we really do want to put all of our time and effort into making this a reality. And so, step by step by step, our vision admittedly is ambitious, it's large, there's a lot of work to do because we're really uncovering, in our opinion, a whole new niche sublayer group of both technological primitives and potential for new game economies to be born, not focused on speculators, but on building new types of gameplay and game experiences that just weren't possible in the old Web 2.5 and Web 2 gaming worlds. And so, if that all sounds exciting to you, you really do think that, hey, there should be a future for blockchain gaming, but it just doesn't feel right yet, I do implore you to follow us at Paima Studios on Twitter, on Discord, check out our website at paimastudios.com, and really we're pushing and putting a lot of effort into making this more than just words, but actually something tangible that users and players like you today can start testing and start getting a taste of the full vision. The full vision will take time, step by step by step, to get to and to fully accomplish, as most crypto projects, right? However, we're not just all talk, and as I mentioned in previous videos, we already have our first version of Stateful NFTs released with Paima Volcaneers. We already have our first Trustless Web3 game of Jungle Wars NFT Rumble released. We have 2 following games already in development, and we have a pretty strong roadmap of features that we'll slowly share over time with you guys, of both features for Paima Engine that will unlock new types of gameplay, new capabilities, improve scaling, make tangible differences for the development process of Trustless Web3 games. And we're going to work through all of this step by step by step, and really, hopefully from our perspective, be at the forefront of making Trustless Web3 gaming a reality. And so, yes, please follow us at all of our social media channels, Discord, and likewise. And if you have any questions, please feel free to comment down below. And we're really excited to have you guys start to get a taste and feel for the future of Trustless Web3 gaming. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.